Ladies and gentlemen, at this seminar, we will discuss the Indonesian security system. Indonesia's security system is not something secret because it is clearly stated in the Indonesian constitution and is further regulated in various laws and regulations in Indonesia. Perhaps, the nature of the discussion is spread across various legal provisions, it cannot be understood comprehensively and completely. Now we will discuss Indonesia's security system, in a cross-sectional manner so that it is fully illustrated. All regulations regarding Indonesia originate from the Indonesian constitution, including the Indonesian security system. The basis of the Indonesian security system is contained in Article 30 of the 1945 Constitution. In the Indonesian constitution it is stated that 1. Every citizen has the right and obligation to participate in national defense and security efforts. 2. State defense and security efforts are carried out through a universal people's defense and security system by the Indonesian National Army and the National Police of the Republic of Indonesia as the main force, and the people as the supporting force. For your knowledge, Indonesia combines the two systems with the term Sishenkamrata, which is divided into Sishenrata and Siskumrata. 3. Regarding who is responsible for preparing and operationalizing the Indonesian defense system, or what is known as Sishenrata, is the Indonesian National Army, consists of the Army, Navy, and Air Force as state instruments tasked with defending, protecting and maintaining the integrity and sovereignty of the country. 4th, while those responsible for preparing and operationalizing the Indonesian security system, or what is known as Siskumrata, are the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia as a state instrument that maintains security and public order, is tasked with protecting, serving the community and enforcing the law. 5th, it is stated that the composition and position of the Indonesian National Army, the Indonesian State Police, the relationship and authority of the Indonesian National Army and the Indonesian State Police in carrying out their duties. The conditions for citizen participation in defense and security efforts are regulated by law. Of course, this is only the foundation of the implementation of the entire Indonesian security system and the entire Indonesian defense system. We continue. The question is, why does Indonesia implement a universal people's defense system and a universal people's security system? This can be understood by the Indonesian people. Because, first, Indonesia is located at the crossroads of the world, located between the continents of Asia and Oceania, so it is known as a cross-continental country, which makes it vulnerable to threats from abroad and within the country, threats from the ocean and threats from land. Second, Indonesia is the 14th largest country in the world, as well as the largest archipelagic country in the world, with an area of 1,904,569 square kilometers, having 17,504 islands. Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world, with a population reaching 279.072.446 people in 2024, therefore there is the potential for conflict which could develop into a major security problem, as well as a major defense problem, so it must be anticipated and resolved by involving all Indonesian people. Third, based on Indonesia's experience, regarding threats in the security sector and threats in the defense sector that are latent, so that all Indonesian people must always be prepared. As you can see in the slide, the Universal People's Security System and the Universal People's Defense System have similar characteristics, namely, the orientation of state defense and security is served by and for the interests of all the people. All national resources are utilized for defense and security efforts. The deployment of defense forces and security efforts is carried out spread across the entire territory of the Republic of Indonesia, in accordance with the geographical conditions as an archipelagic country. As determined by the Indonesian Constitution, the Universal People's Defense System is prepared and operationalized by the Indonesian National Army. Meanwhile, the Universal People's Security System is prepared and operationalized by the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia. Both systems are supported by all Indonesian people. The slide shows a division of domains using blue with the words peace and red with the words war. This is only to facilitate understanding of the security system of the Indonesian people and the defense system of the Indonesian people. In peaceful conditions, where the universal people's security system is prepared, operationalized, and managed by the state police of the Republic of Indonesia. Because its characteristics are the universal people's security system, there is an element of the people as the supporting force for security. On the other hand, the Indonesian National Army is not silent, but has the task of preparing the Indonesian people to be operational at any time in unexpected conditions. Of course, the task of the Indonesian National Army is not easy because its efforts are faced with the progress of the times, technology, progress of Industry 4.0 and a generation whose national sense is weakening. We are now all in a peaceful zone, where the universal people's security system is prepared, operationalized, and managed by the state police of the Republic of Indonesia. The question is, who is meant by the people as the supporting force for security? The people as the supporting force for security consists of several groups, namely, because of its moral obligation, everyone is responsible for protecting themselves, their families and their environment so that they do not become perpetrators or victims of crime. Meaning that this group is every individual Indonesian people who is not bound by a particular organization or group. Every individual Indonesian citizen, based on Article 111 Paragraph 1 of the Criminal Procedure Law, has the right to arrest someone who is caught committing a criminal act and hand him over to the state police of the Republic of Indonesia. Arrests are one of the police's duties, so in this case it can be said that the community is carrying out police duties. Then, every Indonesian law that was issued from 2002 until now, always mandates community participation for law enforcement, so that the Indonesian people, whether individually or affiliated with an organization, have the right to monitor various suspicious and unlawful activities in Indonesia. Examples of these community groups include anti-corruption community associations, or anti-narcotics community associations, or anti-money laundering community organizations, anti-human trafficking community organizations, and various other community organizations. Based on the Criminal Procedure Law, the 2002 Police Law also provides space for various components of the government apparatus and the community to carry out police functions, namely the special police or known in Indonesia as Polsus, civil servant investigators or known in Indonesia as PPNS, as well as forms of independent security. From this context, it is clear that the Indonesian security system has a very extensive network. In accordance with the title of the seminar, we are not discussing the technical security of the universal people, but discussing the security system of the universal people. However, in order for this discussion of the Indonesian security system to have a comprehensive context, it is also necessary to explain that the operations of each component in the Indonesian security system operate in the physical world and in cyberspace, with various available technologies. The operations of each component in the field of universal public security also move from an intelligence operational context to a preventive context supported by preemptive efforts to prevent crime and other security threats. If this is not able to eliminate security disturbances, then the system will move into a non-judicial repressive domain, and if it is unable to prevent security disturbances, the security system will move to the stage of law enforcement with various coercive measures. The question is, how will the Indonesian security system be regulated, if threats, disturbances, and obstacles in the security sector exceed the police's capabilities? If the conditions of threat, disturbance, or obstacles in the Indonesian security sector are found to exceed the limits of the police's capabilities, then the Indonesian security system has set up a mechanism for involving the Indonesian National Army under police coordination, for the protection of human rights. Currently, there are threats, disturbances, and obstacles in the Indonesian security sector that exceed the limits of the police's capabilities, namely in the context of crime in the maritime area. Therefore, on an ongoing basis, the police and investigating naval officers from the Indonesian National Army carry out police functions in Indonesia's maritime areas. In mainland areas, There are also sometimes threats, disturbances, and obstacles in the Indonesian security sector that exceed the limits of the police's capabilities, so that with state political decisions there is the involvement of the National Army of the Republic of Indonesia in overcoming security disturbances. For example, the case is, countering terrorism by the Santoso group in Poso, Sulawesi Middle. Police duties by the Indonesian National Army in the Indonesian security system are called military operations other than war, which requires state political decisions for their operations. If the above limits are exceeded, then the context enters the war domain. As has been generally stated in slide number 8 as currently displayed, security is the domain of the police. Carrying out the police function is the state police of the Republic of Indonesia, assisted by the Special Police Force, assisted by civil servant investigators, assisted by various forms of independent security and also Indonesian society in general. So the next discussion is to get to know the components of the Indonesian security system. First, we will discuss the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia as the coordinator in the Indonesian security system, which is responsible for preparing, coordinating, supervising the operations of other police function holders. The State Police of the Republic of Indonesia is a central police organization, so that regional police are under the control of the State Police headquarters. In other words, the state police uses the centralized system of policing paradigm, namely a centralized police system under the direct control of the central government. This is a description of the police organization at the state police headquarters level. Not all organizational units at the state police headquarters level have sub-organizations in the regional police, because there is a possibility that some units at the state police headquarters are able to reach all regions of Indonesia, for example the Special Anti-Terror Detachment. At the state police headquarters level, all policies related to Indonesia's security system are managed and basic policies are determined. There are various police functions at the state police headquarters, such as the intelligence sector, the investigation sector, the police mobile brigade corps, the international relations sector, the information technology sector, the human resources sector, the education sector, the planning sector, the operational sector, the health sector and so on. The regional police is the main implementing unit at the regional level, which is under the state police chief. The regional police are tasked with carrying out police duties at the regional level and are led by a regional police chief. Currently, Indonesia has 38 provinces. The formation of police organizations follows government developments, meaning there must be 38 regional police forces in Indonesia. Some of these regional police forces have been around for a long time, some have just been formed and some are still in the process of being formed, such as the Papua Mountain Regional Police or the Central Papua Regional Police and several other regional police forces, which is why there are only 31 regional police logos visible on the figures of current slide. The regional police structure is leaner than the police structure at the central level or at the police headquarters level. Regional police are responsible for preparing, coordinating, operationalizing and supervising the universal public security system in their area. From this discussion about the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia, we can draw an important point that there is a network of Indonesian security systems that are regional in nature and then unified at the state level. Now we move to those carrying out police functions, which are called polsus or special police. In Indonesia there are many special police forces because the needs of Indonesia's security system continue to develop. For example, with the development of the cyber world, there is a special police force in the cyber sector, which adds to the components of Indonesia's security system. It should be understood that there are different views on the terminology of special police. In America, we know SWAT as a special police force which is equivalent to the Mobile Brigade, which is a special police force in the Indonesian Republican State Police, or special forces from the police in other countries. But the Mobile Brigade of the Republic of Indonesia State Police is not referred to as Polsus. In Indonesia, if you use the term Polsus or special police, then it refers to components of the Indonesian security system that are outside the police of the Republic of Indonesia. Special police are government agencies or bodies which by or under the authority of law, formed based on legislative regulations, are authorized to carry out police functions in their respective technical fields. Authority is specific and limited within the power area of matters. In Dutch law, the power area of matters is called zakkengebied, which is determined by the statutory regulations which form the legal basis. One of the police functions of the Indonesian state police is traffic police. The traffic police at the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia enforce the law against private vehicles. In the Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia there is a special police force, which is tasked with enforcing laws against public transport vehicles and goods transport vehicles. This police force is called the Polsus Hubdat or Special Land Transportation Police Force. In the next few slides, you will see a section showing the role of the Indonesian National Police as coordinator and supervisor of the special police and civil servant investigators. So this part is not discussed again. Still under the Department of Transportation, there is the Special Railway Police. The Special Railway Police is a government agency or agency which, by or under the power of law, is authorized to carry out police functions in the field of railways. The Special Railway Police, or abbreviated as Polsuska, has responsibilities related to security and order for train service users. Also carrying out investigations, prevention, deterrence, arrests and carrying out other non-judicial actions, as well as making incident reports on every activity handled by the Special Railway Police within the railway operational environment. Under the Ministry of Transportation there is a Special Maritime Police or Special Sea Transportation Police, abbreviated as Polsus Hublat. The Special Maritime Transportation Police are tasked with enforcing laws in the field of public transportation for people and goods in sea or maritime areas. Still under the Ministry of Transportation, there is a Special Police Force for Sea and Coast Guard. The Special Police Force for Sea and Coast Guard is also called the KPLP Police. The Special Police Force for Sea and Coast Guard is tasked with preparing the formulation of policies in the field of beach security, beach guarding, beach patrols, dealing with marine disasters and pollution, maintaining order in waters and ports, supervising underwater work, and rescue operations. Still under the Ministry of Transportation, there is a special police force tasked with enforcing laws in the field of air transportation. This special air transportation police is called the Hubud Police. Part of the duties of the Hubud Police are formulating policies in the field of utilization of airspace, aircraft, and airports, organizing air transportation and flight navigation, improving safety, security, and the quality of the aviation environment, as well as utilizing supporting facilities and general aviation facilities. Under the Ministry of Forestry and Environment there is a Special Forestry Police Force. The Special Forestry Police are tasked with enforcing laws in the environmental and forestry sectors, patrolling and supervising activities that destroy forests. Under the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, the Special Police for monitoring coastal areas and small islands, which is abbreviated as Polsus PWP3K. Polsus PWP3K was given the authority to supervise the implementation of integrated and sustainable management of coastal areas and small islands in Indonesia. The Food and Drug Supervisory Agency, also known as the BPOM Agency, is a non-ministerial government institution, which carries out government affairs in the field of drug and food supervision. The BPOM agency is under and responsible to the President through the Minister who handles government affairs in the health sector. Under the Ministry of Finance there is a Special Customs and Excise Police, or abbreviated as Polsus BC. The BC Police have the task of carrying out the formulation and implementation of policies in the fields of supervision, law enforcement, services, and optimizing state revenues in the field of customs and excise in accordance with the provisions of statutory regulations. Under the Ministry of Agriculture there is a special police force that handles animal husbandry and health issues. Special Police for Animal Husbandry and Health, abbreviated as Polsus PKH, with the task of enforcing laws in the field of animal husbandry and animal health. Under the Ministry of Agriculture there is a special police force for the Directorate General of Plantations, abbreviated as Pulsistitjenban. Pulsistitjenban enforcing laws in the plantation sector. Under the Ministry of Law and Human Rights there is a special police force for correctional institutions which is referred to by the abbreviation Pulsispas. Special police for correctional institutions are tasked with the responsibility of supervision, guidance, security, and safety of inmates and detainees. Under the Ministry of Law and Human Rights there is an Immigration Directorate which carries out police duties in the field of immigration, so it is often also called the Immigration Police. The Special Immigration Police are tasked with supervising immigration issues and problems involving foreigners in Indonesian territory, including supporting the organization of immigration detention centers for the deportation of foreigners. Carrying out policy formulation in the fields of law enforcement and immigration security, immigration services and facilities, state crossings and immigration foreign cooperation, and immigration information technology. Even though it is still under discussion, there is no harm in stating that under the Ministry of Law and Human Rights, a special police force for courts will be formed. This is due to the need for police action in judicial processes in Indonesia. In every regional government at the provincial level as well as at the district and city levels, there is a special civil service police unit under the regional head. The Civil Service Police Unit is tasked with enforcing regional regulations and maintaining order in the region. Apart from the special police, other police function holders in the Indonesian security system are civil servant investigators or abbreviated as PPNS. Civil servant investigators wear government agency uniforms with insignia as seen on the slide. Civil servant investigators are certain civil servant officials who, based on statutory regulations, are appointed as investigators and have the authority to carry out investigations into criminal acts, within the scope of the laws that form the basis of their respective laws. Under the Ministry of Transportation there is a civil servant investigator for the Road Traffic and Transportation Service. We are reminded again that the civil servant investigator for the Road Traffic and Transportation Service is tasked with enforcing the law on public transportation of people and public transportation of goods, which is different from the traffic police from the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia. Under the Ministry of Forestry and Environment there is a civil servant investigator of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, who is often referred to by the abbreviation PPNSKLHK. Civil servant investigator of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry carrying out investigations into environmental and forestry crimes. Under the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries there is a civil servant investigator of fisheries and marine security, whose job is to carry out investigations into fisheries and marine security crimes. Under the Ministry of Health there is a civil servant investigator who is specifically tasked with enforcing health-related laws. Under the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, there are two forms of civil servant investigator of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, namely, 1. Civil servant investigator within the Directorate General of Oil and Gas, and second is civil servant investigator within the Downstream Oil and Gas Regulatory Agency. Both are carrying out investigations into energy and mineral resources crimes, but the field domains are different. Under the Ministry of Finance there is a civil servant tax investigator or abbreviated as PPNS tax. Civil servant tax investigator carrying out investigations into state financial crimes. Under the Ministry of Agriculture there is a civil servant investigator for animal and plant quarantine. The duties and functions of animal and plant quarantine are to prevent the entry, spread, and exit of quarantine animal disease pests and quarantine plant pest organisms as well as supervision and control of food safety and food quality, feed safety and feed quality, genetically engineered products, genetic resources, biological agents, invasive foreign species, wild plants and animals, and rare plants and animals. Under the Ministry of Law and Human Rights there is a Directorate General of Intellectual Property Rights, one of whose duties is to be a civil servant investigator of intellectual property rights and copyright. Under the Ministry of Law and Human Rights there is a Ministry of Law and Human Rights civil servant investigator who carries out duties for the internal interests of the Ministry of Law and Human Rights, namely carry out law enforcement against criminal cases that occur within the Ministry of Law and Human Rights. Under the Ministry of Trade there is a commercial civil servant investigator, who carries out the task of carrying out investigations into trafficking crimes in the field of trade. Under the Ministry of Education and Culture there is a civil servant investigator for cultural heritage protection who carries out investigations into educational and cultural crimes. Under the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology there is a civil servant investigator of electronic transaction information, or abbreviated as PPNS telecommunications. The Director General of Postal and Informatics Resources and Equipment is tasked with making efforts to prevent legal violations, especially in the use of radio frequency spectrum and also uncertified telecommunications equipment, as well as law enforcement in the telecommunications sector. The duties of PPNS at the Ministry of Communication and Information have expanded following the development of Industry 4.0. Under the Indonesian Financial Services Authority, which is referred to by the abbreviation OJK, there is a Financial Services Authority civil servant investigator who carries out law enforcement against banking crimes. Under the regional government, both at the provincial level and at the district and city level, there is a local government civil servant investigator whose job is to enforce regional regulations. Under the regional government, at the provincial level, there is a civil servant investigator for transportation who carries out investigations into traffic and road transport crimes. As stated previously, the police function in the Indonesian security system is the state police of the Republic of Indonesia, assisted by special police, assisted by civil servant investigators, assisted by independent forms of security. Now we enter into a discussion about forms of independent security in the Indonesian security system. Self-initiated forms of security is a form of security that is carried out based on the will, awareness, and interests of the community itself, which then receives confirmation from the state police of the Republic of Indonesia, such as environmental security units and business entities in the field of security services. Self-initiated, or in Sanskrit called swakarsa, forms of security have limited police authority within the power of place environment, including residential environments, work environments, and educational environments. Examples are environmental security units in residential areas, security units in office areas, or security units in shops. Arrangements regarding swakarsa security are the authority of the Indonesian State Police Chief. With the previous explanation about security swakarsa, it can be understood that swakarsa security is divided into two. First, independent security was formed, educated, and operated by the Security Services Business Entity, or in Indonesia known by the abbreviation BUJP. Second is swakarsa and self-help security, formed and managed by the community, such as the Kamling Post, Pakalang in Bali, Traditional Police in Riau, Kanun Police in Aceh, which is also called the Civil Service, and Wilayatul Hispa Police, and others. The swakarsa security that you often encounter in various offices and public places such as malls and the like is independent security, was formed, educated, and operated by the Security Services Business Entity. This swakarsa security is called a security unit or satpam and often uses the label security. It should be understood, when you say security officers in Indonesia, the term refers to satpam, who have very limited authority in their work area. The word security in Indonesia has a narrow meaning. On the slide you can see various differences in uniforms between police officers from the Indonesian State Police and Satpam. The second form of independent security is independent security, which is formed and managed by certain communities based on cultural communities. Please note, Indonesia has 478 tribes and sub-ethnic groups with their respective customary laws. This means they have their own customary law enforcement structures, or carry out local police functions. Customary law is also called living law. What was conveyed in the previous slide is important, considering that living law, or the law of living in society, is a concept recognized in the 2023 Criminal Code, which will come into effect in 2025 in Indonesia. This concept recognizes the existence of laws that apply in society, and can even determine whether someone deserves to be punished even though their actions are not regulated in the National Criminal Code. One form that is the same throughout Indonesia, related to self-help security formed and managed by the community, is the Environmental Security Post, or called by the abbreviation Kamling Post. The Kamling Post officers are carried out in turns by the local community. Kamling Post officers carry out activities to maintain the security of their environment. They use various equipment such as flashlights, sticks and simple weapons. Post Kamling officers communicate using a drum, the type and number of beats of the drum, which gives signals about things such as thieves, fires, safe conditions, deaths, and other signals to the public. In Bali there is a self-help security formed and managed by the community called Pakalang. Pakalang is a traditional police officer whose job is to guard, secure, and regulate villages and areas, both in daily activities and traditional or religious ceremonies. In North Sumatra there is a Batak traditional law enforcement structure led by the traditional leaders of the Batak tribe. The traditional leader of the Batak tribe has very broad authority in maintaining the culture and customs of the Batak community, including leading deliberations between residents to resolve a problem to produce an agreement or decision, up to the task of archiving customary land. The Riau Malay traditional institution in Sumatra has a customary police, whose job is to enforce Malay customary rules in Riau. Since 2015 in the province of Aceh the Kanun law has been in effect. Kanun adopts Islamic law and regulates things that are not stipulated in national law, and sometimes even prescribes punishments that are different from national law. Kanun in Aceh only applies to residents who are Muslim, but they can choose to submit to Kanun law or submit to Indonesian national law. The Kanun law in Aceh does not apply to Acehners who are not Muslim. In Minangkabau society, there is a way of life that customs are guided by the Sharia and Sharia is guided by the Al-Quran, so it is clear that the customs that apply in the Minangkabau society are Islamic Sharia law. The Dayak indigenous community in Kalimantan also has customary law and customary law enforcement apparatus, from those tasked with maintaining security and order in the Dayak indigenous community. There are also institutions that decide on customary cases, to institutions that carry out the execution of traditional institution decisions. There are still many police functions in Indonesia that are not explicitly mentioned in the law, but not all of them can be explained in detail in this seminar. From the entire discussion, it can be concluded that the stakeholders in the Indonesian security system are the State Police of the Republic of Indonesia, 15 Indonesian Special Police, 15 Indonesian Civil Servant Investigator, Security Unit organized by the Security Services Business Entity. Data for 2022 shows that the number of security services business entities was recorded at 5,670 with 856,002 security guard personnel. The community participation by security NGOs, the community participation by individual Indonesian society, including various traditional institutions in Indonesia. In the event that the Indonesian security system faces threats and challenges that exceed its capabilities, then by political decision the state can involve the National Army of the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you for your attention. I hope this seminar provides additional positive knowledge, and can improve the coordination of seminar participants in the security sector, because it is clear who does what, who is responsible for what, and who is responsible to whom, in the Indonesian security system.